In the previous lesson, we reviewed communication strategies, what to say, and various ideas for ways to communicate change. Now let's discuss something deeper, empathy. That's the ability to share and understand the feelings of others. I know sometimes we might cringe at that statement. This is business. I don't want to get into feelings. I'm like that sometimes. But truly, you cannot function effectively as a leader without focusing on the feelings of the people in your organization, at least to a certain extent. So empathy might seem like a soft skill. It might seem disconnected from the technical realities of AI implementation. However, in practice, empathetic leadership is one of the most powerful motivators of change. And most importantly, empathetic leadership can help you accelerate AI adoption effectively in your organization. AI transformation isn't just a technical change, it's personal, affecting how people spend their days, whether they feel competent, how they see their future, and sometimes their sense of professional identity. When leaders approach this transformation with empathy, genuinely understanding how it feels from employees' perspective, they make fundamentally different decisions than leaders who focus purely on technical implementation and business outcomes. Empathetic leadership doesn't mean avoiding difficult decisions or slowing transformation to eliminate discomfort. It means understanding emotional responses, addressing them thoughtfully, and making decisions that acknowledge human needs alongside business requirements. Before you can respond empathetically, you need to understand what people are actually feeling about AI transformation. There are the common emotional responses: the anxiety about job security, the fear of incompetence. What if I can't learn this? What if I'm too old or not technical enough? The loss of identity. My expertise defined my professional value. If AI does this work, who am I professionally? And there's excitement mixed with apprehension. People thinking it sounds promising, but not sure they can handle the change. There might be cynicism from past change initiatives. They might have been through technology transformations before that didn't work and wonder if this will be the same or different. There could be resentment at imposed change. Nobody asked whether they wanted this. Decisions are being made about their work without their input. These emotions aren't obstacles to overcome. They're legitimate responses to significant change, and empathetic leadership recognizes them as just that. Empathy isn't just feeling compassion. It's taking specific actions informed by understanding others' experiences. When someone expresses concern about AI, empathetic leadership listens to understand, not to rebut. Active listening without defensiveness. For example, if an employee says, "I'm worried AI will eliminate the parts of my job that I'm best at," a leader's defensive response might be, "You shouldn't worry, AI is just a tool, you'll adapt." An empathetic response would be, "Tell me more about what concerns you. What aspects of your role are you worried about losing?" This empathetic response creates space for dialogue. The defensive response shuts it down. There is validation without dismissal. Empathy validates feelings even when the facts don't support the worry. If an employee says, "I feel like I'm being replaced," a dismissive response would be, "That's not true. We're not replacing anyone." An empathetic response would be, "I understand why this change might feel that way. Let me explain what's actually changing and what's not, and I want to hear your concerns." Validation doesn't mean agreeing with mistaken perceptions. It means acknowledging that feelings are real before addressing facts. Now, of course, all of this might seem like a lot of extra work, and as a leader, you're not going to likely have the ability to speak to every person and discuss their feelings or their concerns. But where you have areas and time to address specific concerns, these are the things to consider about the difference between which responses are dismissive versus which are empathetic. There is perspective taking. Empathetic leaders actively imagine how transformation feels from different vantage points. How does this feel to someone who's been doing things the same way for 20 years? To someone early in their career, still building expertise? To someone who barely feels comfortable with current technology? differently. These different perspectives require different approaches, and you cannot always solve for all of these issues, but recognizing them is important. One-size-fits-all change management fails because it doesn't account for diverse experiences. Empathy creates a sense of psychological safety, the belief that you can speak up, ask questions, make mistakes, and express concerns without negative consequences. Psychological safety is critical for AI adoption because learning new ways of working requires admitting what you don't know, asking for help, trying things that might not work, and being honest about challenges. That doesn't mean a combative attitude is okay for the employees or for anyone involved. It simply means the freedom to navigate these challenging waters needs to be there in order for overall success and individualized success to occur. And that's the freedom to constructively attempt to figure out how to cope with and thrive through change. So it should be culturally acceptable to say, I don't understand this, or I'm struggling with this transition, or I need more help. Leaders create this safety by modeling vulnerability themselves, by saying, I'm learning about AI too. I don't have all the answers. Let's figure this out together. Enable making them owners of their own success, accountable for their own success. They can choose, find productive ways to attempt to achieve progress through these changes, or they might not choose to be a part of the organization if they can't handle the changes. But the effort as the leader is to support the opportunity to positively embrace these challenges and effectively move forward. When people voice concerns, how you respond either reinforces or undermines psychological safety. A response that undermines safety would be that concern isn't valid, or saying you're being resistant to change. Responses that build safety are that's a legitimate concern. Here's what we know, here's what we're doing to address it, and here's what we don't know yet. During AI transition, mistakes happen. People use tools incorrectly, processes break, and communication can fail. Empathetic leadership treats these as learning opportunities rather than failures to punish. This encourages the experimentation necessary for successful adoption. It further enables your ability to take a pulse on the state of the organization as you navigate these change waters. Empathy recognizes that different people need different support during change. There's, of course, the enthusiastic early adopter. These are people who are excited about AI and want to move fast. They want opportunities to experiment and lead. They need a channel for their enthusiasm that doesn't alienate others, and recognition that their comfort is not universal. There's the cautious pragmatists. People like this want to understand thoroughly before committing. They need detailed information about how AI works, time to process and evaluate, and answers to thoughtful questions without being rushed unnecessarily. There are the anxious resistors. People like this are genuinely worried about AI's impact on their role. They need clear, honest information about changes, concrete plans for skill development, and reassurance backed by actions, not just words. Then too, there is the overwhelmed adapter. These people want to adapt, but feel overwhelmed by the pace. They need manageable steps rather than everything at once. They need extra support and patience, and recognition of effort, not just results. Then too, there is the checked out cynic. These people have seen failed change initiatives and don't believe this one matters. They need evidence of actual impact, not just promises. Understanding of why past initiatives failed and how this differs. Respect for their skepticism as based in experience. Empathetic leadership provides different support for different needs rather than treating everyone identically. Empathy does not mean avoiding hard truths. Sometimes empathetic leadership requires difficult conversations. Sometimes roles are actually changing significantly. Empathy means being honest about significant changes while supporting people through them. Someone might say your role is evolving substantially. Some tasks you currently do will be automated. I want to be direct about that. I also want to work with you on developing capabilities in areas where you'll add most value going forward. This honesty, combined with commitment to support, demonstrates more empathy than false reassurance. When someone isn't adapting successfully, if someone genuinely struggles with AI transformation despite support, empathetic leadership addresses it directly. I know this transition has been challenging for you. Let's talk about what support would help, what timeline is realistic, and what success needs to look like. This creates an opportunity for course correction while acknowledging difficulty. Sometimes what's best for the organization differs from what individuals prefer. Some might say, I understand you prefer the current process and don't want to use the AI tool. I appreciate that perspective. The business reality is we need to move forward with this change. Let me understand what specifically concerns you, and let's see how we can address those concerns while still making the necessary transition. This acknowledges the person's preference while maintaining the necessary direction. And empathy extends beyond direct reports to different stakeholders. You get the frontline employees. They experience AI's impact most directly sometimes and often have least say in decisions. It's helpful when they have a voice in how implementation happens, support during the learning curve, and recognition of their expertise in what actually works operationally. Middle managers are simultaneously adapting themselves and helping teams adapt. Helpful for them is support for their own transition, tools and guidance for supporting their teams, space to voice their own concerns, not just relay team concerns upward. Senior leaders face pressure to deliver results quickly while managing transformation responsibly. Helpful to them are realistic perspectives on pace and challenges, support network among peers navigating similar changes, and permission to acknowledge what they don't know. Customers are affected by changes in how you serve them. Helpful for them is clear communication about what's changing at that customer level, reassurance that quality won't decline during transition, and easy access to human support when AI doesn't meet their needs. Leaders sometimes perceive tension between empathetic approaches and necessary speed of transformation. You might think, if I slow down to address everyone's concerns empathetically, we'll fall behind competitors. This might be a false dichotomy. Empathetic leadership does not mean moving slowly. It means moving thoughtfully in ways that bring people along. Actually, empathetic approaches often accelerate adoption by reducing resistance, building commitment, and creating psychological safety for learning. Non-empathetic fast implementation frequently creates resistance that ultimately slows progress more than taking time to address human factors would have. So let's talk about some practical empathy exercises. Ask, how do you develop and demonstrate empathy practically? You could have regular listening sessions, schedule time specifically to hear about people's experience with AI transformation, not to problem solve immediately, but to understand. Some might say, I want to understand how the AI rollout is actually feeling from your perspective. What's working? What's frustrating? What do you need? There's the attempt to walk in their shoes. Spend time actually using AI tools alongside team members who are learning from them. Experience the learning curve, confusion, and frustration directly where possible. This firsthand experience builds empathy more effectively than hearing about it secondhand. This might not be a perfect solution because even with your experimentations, you may not be doing exactly what your employee is doing, so you might not have an opportunity to experience what they're experiencing. And in that case, it could be very helpful to have them show you the challenges that they're facing. You might try perspective journaling before major AI decisions. Write from different stakeholders' perspectives, like, if I were a 15-year veteran employee, how would I experience this? If I were a new employee, if I were a customer. Performing this exercise of thinking through this can surface considerations you might otherwise miss. And feedback without defense. Create channels for honest feedback about AI implementation, and without defensiveness, receive that feedback. When someone says this isn't working, resist the urge to explain why they're wrong. First, understand their experience and then address it. Empathy isn't just an ethical issue. It's not just ethically correct. smart. It's actually strategically smart. This lesson in particular, it's not about teaching you to be ethical. Not at all. This is about strategy. This is about success and effectiveness. Empathetic leadership reduces resistance, which accelerates adoption. It builds trust, which enables honest feedback about what's working and what isn't. It creates psychological safety, which enables the learning and experimentation successful transformation requires. Organizations with empathetic leadership during AI transformation see faster adoption rates, higher quality implementation feedback, better retention of talented people, stronger organizational culture post-transformation, and more innovative applications as people feel safe experimenting. Empathy generates better business outcomes, not just better business employee experiences. Empathy does not mean eliminating accountability or lowering standards. Quite the opposite. Can empathetically support someone while holding them accountable for adapting. In fact, when you empathetically support someone, as I've mentioned previously, it creates the accountability as you pull them into the ownership of the process. You can understand that change is difficult while maintaining expectations that people will learn new capabilities. You're shaping the direction of your organization based on what is best for your organization. It may be in how you hold people accountable. Empathetic accountability says, this is challenging, I understand that, and I'm supporting you. I also need you to engage seriously with learning these new capabilities. How can we make that successful? This combines support with expectations rather than using support as an excuse for lack of progress. Don't forget empathy for yourself. Leading through AI transformation is difficult. You're managing upward pressure for results, downward concerns from teams, and your own uncertainty about the future. Acknowledge this difficulty rather than pretending leadership means having all answers and feeling no doubt, feeling no pressure. Give yourself space to learn, make mistakes, and adjust course. Leaders who extend empathy to themselves are better able to extend it authentically to others. The University of Houston research professor Brené Brown has a few good quotes related to this. She says, a brave leader is someone who says, I see you, I hear you, I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to keep listening and asking questions. She says, the courage to be vulnerable is not about winning or losing, it's about the courage to show up when you can't predict or control the outcome. And she says leaders acknowledge the fear and uncertainty. They name it, they normalize it, with the goal of not leveraging it or using it, but de-escalating it. And psychologist Kristen Neff says, if you are continually judging and criticizing yourself while trying to be kind to others, you are drawing artificial boundaries and distinctions that only lead to feelings of separation and isolation. And so we know that that would hurt the authenticity that we're going for here. She also says self-compassion is a way of emotionally recharging our batteries. Rather than becoming drained by helping others, self-compassion allows us to fill up our internal reserves so that we have more to give to those who need us. And the founder of Maxwell Leadership, John C. Maxwell, said, a man must be big enough to admit his mistakes, smart enough to profit from them, and strong enough to correct them. So empathy accelerates AI adoption by addressing the human reality of transformation, not just the technical and strategic dimensions. In the next lesson, we'll further explore storytelling, how to create narratives about AI transformation that make change meaningful, memorable, and motivating for your team. Empathy helps you understand what people feel. Storytelling helps you shape what they feel into productive engagement.